Hey everybody, welcome to the Fire Up with DJ show and happy holidays. We actually have a holiday show for you, and we have our guest, Jonathan Robinson, talking about his book, Find Happiness Now. Don't you need that right now? I'm not sure if people are feeling the spirit of Christmas. So Jonathan is going to be offering some of his tips, which are in fact are wonderful year round, and I think are particularly relevant during the Christmas time. So we're going to offer some tips. But Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about what your holidays have been like so far.
Very relaxing. I try not to do much shopping in stores because people are, they hear all these joyous songs and Merry Christmas, but generally people are rushed and upset and annoyed. So I try to protect myself from that.
Isn't that funny? I actually have the opposite thing. Like I'll buy online stuff, but it just feels like kind of this mechanical click, click, click. Like I don't. I actually reserve a little bit of time for me to go into the malls because I hear the music and I smell, all the different smells and I see the bright lights and it's kind of like a 5-year-old reaction to the whole thing. It's funny how different people different
Yeah.
reactions. So tell us a little bit, and one of the things that I think both of us have done, I actually just recently, before Thanksgiving occurred, 2 days before Thanksgiving, I started listening to every single radio show I've ever done about Thanksgiving and Christmas, about getting how to deal with yourself, right, how to deal with other people and your relatives, and then how to get into the spirit of Christmas. And that actually really helped me get into the right mindset and kind of get a sense of what I really wanted for the holidays. And tell me, I know you went through kind of a similar process right now in writing your blog. Tell me a little bit about how you wrote that blog and what you were thinking of when you're writing it.
Well, I used to really kind of dislike Christmas, and a lot of people have a hard time with depression and bringing up all that kind of stuff. So I've usually asked myself the question, what's my ideal Christmas look like?
Mm-hmm.
And it usually looks like spending time, relaxed time with loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I really enjoy spending time by myself. So I usually have a day or two of retreat and then plan some really special time with my closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that keeps it simple. That way I'm not focused on buying gifts and stressing out and all that. And
Yeah.
one thing I do, don't tell my friends this, but I usually buy like one present for like 40 of them. You know, this year it's wool socks.
I love it. Do they? So they don't know. So they'll
They
be
don't
like, "Hey, I
know.
just heard I just heard Jonathan's show. Did you get your wool socks?"
Well, now they know, and now I won't have any friends anymore. But they've been used to know.
Okay, but one of the really wonderful stories that you have in here is that you were saying how you actually put together some inexpensive things, like you'd put together a compilation of your favorite poems or your favorite comics. Do you still do that?
Yeah,
And can I
I
get
do.
something? Can I get one?
Like my favorite music or
Yeah,
CDs of favorite spiritual teachers talking, about things that are important,
yeah.
and you can mass produce those as well.
Yeah, that's
And
why I think
and
it's
just
brilliant.
yeah.
It's just a bunch of links, but then that's a wonderful gift because then it's a connection with you, right? Like I know what are the favorite songs that you're really loving right now, and I can
Yeah.
listen to those songs, and I'm thinking about you and what you must have liked about those songs. Do you know what I mean? It's a kind of a, I don't know, it's a nice gift of connection as well, I think.
Yeah, we all need inspiration, and when you can find those jewels of inspiration, whether it be a song or I've also done like a favorite movies list of the most
Oh, that's
meaningful
fun.
movies, and people really appreciate that because you can get any movie now pretty easily.
Right.
Really wonderful movie is worth a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that. I mean, I think that's one of the best kind of holiday gift because it's very personal, but then it's also very connective too. I love that. I love it, love it, love it. So there are a whole bunch of other ideas in your book. And one of the things that actually literally I was my child was in he was in taking a kung fu lesson and I'm reading your book getting prepared for the show. So I'm like, actually, here's the scenario. I'm in the dark. I have my visor popped down so I can read your book in the dark. So it's I'm trying to be, all zen about it, but it's kind of this stress producing moment. Like I've got to read this book. And then I read I read How to Open Your Heart. And that story, I was literally then crying in my
Oh,
car.
really? Wow.
It led me to a different place. So can you, as a kind of a gift to all of us listening, can you tell us about the your story?
Yeah, when I was one of the reasons I got into happiness pretty early was I was a miserable kid in a dysfunctional family.
Hmm.
And so I got into self-help books really young. And when I was about 13, I was literally suicidal and thinking about, killing myself on a daily basis. So an English teacher had noticed that I looked kind of sad, and he asked me out to lunch and kind of befriended me and said really nice things about my potential and recommended some books. And it changed, the course of where I was going. So I got over my suicidal thinking, I got over my depression, I started meditating. Well, um, as it ends up, I got successful in my career. I got on Oprah a bunch and had some bestsellers and reached a lot of people. So I decided I would do a visit where I thanked him. So I called him up and said, "Hey, I'm a student from 1971. You might not remember me." But he said, "Yeah, welcome to come over and have lunch." And I had written him a letter about how his acts of kindness had not only changed my life, but I've been able to reach about 200 million people around the world through, mostly TV and affect a lot of people's lives. So I read the letter because I knew it would be emotional. And as I'm reading it, I'm crying and he's crying and he, as a teacher, you don't get to see how people
Yeah.
turn out. And what I found out later was that when you really tell people how much they've impacted your life, it's not only a gift to them, but it's a gift to yourself.
Hmm.
I did this today, as a matter of fact, with somebody else,
Yeah.
with my uncle.
Yeah.
And I wrote him a letter saying how much he has impacted my life. And it feels so good. I know it's going to be a gift to him. So little techniques, this letter to my uncle took 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of high from that.
Yeah.
Uh, Little acts of kindness like that are a great way to boost your own happiness level and the happiness level of other people too.
I was just thinking about, because in the world of Facebook, you can hunt down your teachers and be able to communicate with them again. And actually, my very favorite teacher in high school was this woman, Helen Warren. And I've tried to find her, and I think she's passed. So, if I were to see her, when I was reading your chapter, I thought, well, what would I really want to say? And I always had a hard time writing, and I always had a hard time in English class. And I don't know what happened, but she helped me break out of my shell from
Mm.
being a really quiet, reserved, kind of introverted kind of person. Even though I'm an extrovert, in class as an Asian, I was always kind of reserved and quiet and kind of tucked
Yeah.
back. And she started asking questions of me, and then I gave answers, and she would sincerely, either faking it or being nice, or she was sincerely interested. And she would say, that's a really good thought. Let me think about that. And she'd think about my comment, and she would speak sincerely. And then I'm just crying just thinking about it. But what it did is like, what? My voice matters. And, if it hadn't been for Helen Warren, I wouldn't realize that my voice matters. And so those kind of things, like even just feeling that in my heart, it's like you're saying, it's just you feel the benefit of like having your heart open by
Yeah.
another person. And I'm sure, God rest her soul. If you can hear me, Helen, I want you to know that I'm so grateful because you taught me that, my voice matters. And I don't think I would even be doing this radio show. I mean, at that point afterwards, I started talking, but I wasn't talking up until that point, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a beautiful story, and that's really what we want for Christmas too. We want
yeah.
opening connection with our loved ones. The
Yeah.
presents and the all the other stuff that goes with it is kind of unfortunate. So the question I ask people is, what would create that experience of loving connection with the people you care about?
Mm-hmm.
If people really want experiences, I called the book "Find Happiness Now" because most people are doing stuff for money and other stuff to have happiness sometime in the distant
In the
future.
future, yeah.
And really, the only time we have is now. And what we really crave are moments of love and connection and joy. And we're not that good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, any tips you can have that help, like acts of kindness is an example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when she did that act of kindness for you, it affected you. And when you do acts of kindness for other people, it affects them.
Yeah.
So that's an example of the type of thing that can really make a difference in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that every now and then, there are people, unfortunately, where we live, like on the street corner, begging for money all the time. And, sometimes I'm just like rushing by, like I'm going to a meeting, I have to go to, X,
Yeah.
Y, or Z. But every now and then I'm like, I'm not in a rush. I'm just going to ask, like, hey, what's going on, or what's happening to you, or I notice that you're reading this book, what's happening? And to talk to someone who's on the street and actually taking those, like, whatever, it's like 5 minutes, right? And just
Yeah.
talking to them and finding out about their lives, it's hugely beneficial to me because I understand someone's life that, instead of making all sorts of judgments, which I think most of us do when you see someone who's homeless on the street, by just asking them, like, hey, what's going on, and you hear that they have all these lovely, wonderful things happening in their lives too, and they're just happy that someone stopped to ask them about it.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, recently I got to spend some time in Turkey helping Syrian refugees.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see people less fortunate than you, it can really help you to feel grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And many years ago, I interviewed a lot of the spiritual leaders in the world for a book I was doing. I interviewed everybody from late Mother Teresa to the Dalai Lama.
Wow.
And I was amazed that a lot of them said that gratitude is a real key to happiness and spiritual connection.
How do you figure that?
Say it again?
I understand. Well, and see, I can read that, but what's your own personal experience of that?
Well, when you feel grateful, you feel filled up from within, and then you're more likely to feel peace and love and all good feelings. It's almost like gratitude is a doorway to
Mm-hmm.
everything else above it.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel like you don't have enough and you're poor and you need more, you're just like a taking machine.
Mm-hmm.
So many years ago, I'd heard of an Indian guru who had supposedly this magical mantra to help you to feel overwhelming gratitude. So I decided to go to visit him to find out what this mantra was, because
Yeah.
I knew that was a real key. So I traveled 18,000 miles, and India is a hard place to get to, a hard place to travel in. But take a rickshaw to his ashram for 3 hours.
Oh my God.
I'm jet lagged and worn out.
Yeah.
I have to wait 4 hours in line to talk to him. Finally, I meet him. I say, Guruji, I came all the way from America to learn this mantra you have for gratitude. And in his Indian accent, he says, yes, my mantra is the most powerful mantra on earth.
Uh-huh.
He said, normally I don't say it so quickly, but you came all the way from America, I would tell you. So he leans in to whisper it in my ear. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
He says, whenever possible, repeat the following words. The mantra I give you to feel gratitude are the words, thank you. Well, I said, that's it? I traveled all the way
Thanks a
there
lot.
to get the word thank you? That's it? And he said, no, that's it is the mantra you have been using. And that mantra will make you feel like you never have enough. My mantra is thank you, not that's it. That's it will take you nowhere.
Okay, so how did you translate this momentous occasion into your normal life? Like, you have a chapter in here about how to pray without ceasing. Is that how you took that information from this guru and added it in your life?
Yeah, well, what happened is he said you have to say it many times a day, like throughout the day, and you have to say it from your heart for each thing. So I left there, and I was pissed off.
Yeah.
So I told him thank you, and he said, no, you must say it from your heart for
Yeah.
each thing life gives you. So I said, okay, thank you. So I left, and I got into a taxi cab, and it's like 105 degrees in India.
Yeah.
But the taxi had air conditioning, so I said, thank you for the air conditioning. And then, I got to my hotel, I paid him, and then I realized I had money. Thank you for the money. And then I get to my hotel room and there's a bottle of water there that's clean. Thank you for the water. And then there was Wi-Fi in the hotel. So thank you for the Wi-Fi. I mean, we can reach anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
and get all human knowledge through the internet.
Yeah.
And thank you,
Yeah.
And then, there was air conditioning there, and there was a shower, and there was a clean toilet. In India, that's key.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just kept on saying thank you for each thing. And within about an hour and a half, I have tears of gratitude going down my face because I realized,
Wow.
we live better than billionaires lived 15 years ago.
Yeah.
We have access to all the world's information. We can talk to anyone in the world from anywhere in the world, and life is pretty amazing now. But if you don't take the moment to say thank you and feel it, it all goes by unnoticed and you don't feel filled up.
Mm-hmm.
So I started thank you for this interview. Thank you for my computer. Thank you for my dog. Thank you for, the nice day outside. Thank you for my house. Thank you for the refrigerator,
Yeah.
Thank you for Haagen-Dazs ice cream. That's
Yeah, thanks for that.
exactly.
Seriously. Interesting. So have you continued the practice? I mean, is that one of your tips in your blog for this holidays? Because in some ways, I think that I don't know, for me, Christmas is about love and it's about gratitude. And when I was talking to another guy, she said forgiveness, and I think that Christmas is for forgiveness too, which are all different expressions of love, I think. But what is it for you? Like when you think about Christmas, it sounds like it's connection, like being connection to your inner self, connection to your friends, and like deep connection. It sounds like that's what Christmas is for you.
Yeah, and we live in a very superficial culture or a very superficial culture
Yes.
that is bent on speed and efficiency and materiality. But most people, I think, what they really want is love and peace and depth. So if you want those things, you're going to have to fight for them. You're going to have to have technologies or methods, like in my book or other people's books, that really help you to achieve those things, because those things are not what's given in this culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what are some things have you been that like, as the holidays have been leading up? And for me, it starts like maybe 2 days before Thanksgiving or a week before Thanksgiving. And then it's just this journey between then all the way till New Year's. When does it start for you and what have you done? I know one of the things that you said is you get super clear with your ideal holiday. What else do you do to kind of maintain that peace and connection and depth?
Well, one of the things I do is I make appointments with friends, whether we are spending time together or with some of my friends. I actually do Skype appointments. Let's spend an hour confined where we're not doing anything else on Skype and really connect.
That's brilliant. I would have never, it sounds so weird because I think of Skype as being business meetings. Like I don't think of it as being time to call a friend and say, I haven't connected with you all year. Let's just call each other on Skype. I love that. That's a brilliant idea, I think.
It's very different than a phone, because usually when I'm on the phone, I'm busy cleaning my room or whatever, and it's very different. Okay, we're confined. We're looking at each other.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do. How are you really? How can I be of help? Let me be here with you.
Yeah.
Even though we may be 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. You know what, one of the funniest things, I was thinking about doing this program with you and focusing on the holidays, and I thought, but this is going to be just in a holiday show. I'm not going to be able to talk about all the things in Jonathan's book, but the odd thing is this is an everyday thing. Like every day should be like Christmas, right? If you're really trying to ultimately express the truth, I think the true meaning of life, it is about love and connection and depth and peace. So Christmas can be every day, I think, even though we're recording this and talking about the holidays. This is true of every day of the year, 365 days, right?
Right.
That's the irony of this. Okay, so I wanted to go through some of the tips and some of the ones that I think that are hard, because during Christmas, I just remember being a little kid and there's the adult table and then there's a kid table. And I was always saddled with the kid table. And most of my Asian relatives are introverts. So this is the worst table that you can imagine being at because no one wants to say anything. It's a bunch of like clicking forks and knives. It's just awkward and awful. And you don't really know because at a certain point, like when you're kids, you play toys, there's stuff to connect, and then at a certain age, you're like, I don't really know what to say to you people, and which is awful. And even I see them every year, and I have problems. But then you have a couple of great tips in here about how to start a great conversation and how to quickly feel intimate with anyone, and I was wondering if you could share them with us.
Sure. Well, I've been able to start conversations with total strangers with a certain question. And if they're not a total stranger, it's even easier. The question is like, have you seen any movies that you can really recommend that touched you in a special way?
Hmm.
And people like to talk about their favorite movies. So when you ask that, you're opening up a conversation. And either you've seen the movie, in which now you have a shared intimate experience
Mm-hmm.
you can talk about, or they're telling you about one of their favorite experiences ever, watching a really beautiful
Right.
movie, and you can ask questions about it, and you get to learn about a person by what they talk about.
Yeah.
So that's a really simple question.
Yeah.
And good questions are really worth a lot. I have a lot of questions in the book where you ask people a question like, what do you really love to do?
Mm-hmm.
And as people talk about that, they open up and you find out about them. Or what's something that makes you really happy?
Yes.
As people talk about these things, they focus in a way that leads to more connection and more intimacy. Now, if you look at the word intimacy, the instructions for finding it are in the word, into me see.
Ah, yes.
So you want to have a certain amount of vulnerability, and that's what really leads to people feeling more connected with each other.
Yeah, and it's so here's some of the questions that are in your book that I've been trying and I think are really actually quite good. Like, when are you the happiest? And I asked my son that because this is about being intimate with anyone. It doesn't have to be a cocktail party or someone that you've just met on the subway. It
Yeah,
could be your loved ones. And
you can do this with your mate.
yeah, and I asked myself, what does make me happy? And my answers are kind of embarrassing. Puppy videos.
I'm big on puppy videos too.
Any baby animal doing something ridiculous. And I thought, okay, that is lame. But here's why it is. It's because I think we recognize the innocence, like the innocence and truth of just those little babies, puppies. There's something about that baby state that just makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because puppies video sounds a little bit too pathetic. But if I did meet someone at a cocktail party, I think I would say when I see truly innocent things. Or the other thing that just breaks my heart open is when I watch YouTube videos. And if you go to my Facebook page, there's like thousands of these videos because they just, where you see someone doing something really kind for another person, like they open, they don't have to, they're actually being filmed by traffic cameras.
Right,
But
right.
there are these wonderful people who are helping old ladies across the street in the bitterly cold snow, and no one knows that they're doing it except them. And that little moment of kindness is just, well, that
Yeah.
also makes me happy.
Well, on some level, we know we're all connected,
Yeah.
through love or God or whatever you want to call it. And when we see signs of that it touches our heart.
Yes, that's what it is. It's connection. When you see true connection, to know that, this guy doesn't have to do it because he's being seen as good. He's just
Yeah.
doing it because he's a nice guy and he's a good person. And that all of us inherently have that in us, even
Hmm.
when we're pushing in the shopping line and during Christmas. Just remember that. But I love some of these other ones. What is your greatest strength? What is your greatest weakness? I mean, some of those seem kind of intimate. Like, I
They
don't know if
are.
I'm like at a cocktail party and someone like, hey, how are you? Hey, what is your greatest weakness? I'd be like, what? WTF? Like,
That one you might not use at the cocktail party, but you might do it with your mate or a friend,
yeah,
because we forget how to connect deeply with people. We're all
yeah,
rushed and we always have too much to do. So these questions are like a technology in a way to quickly get to a deeper place and a deeper connection.
mm,
A lot of the methods in the Find Happiness Now book are 2-minute methods to help you get in touch with more peace or love or connection.
Yeah.
because we don't have much time nowadays, but we still want to have the goodies.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think that these are good shortcuts because and they're actually great coaching questions too. I think because even if you're like, well, your answer is boring. Minimally, what you've done is you've done a service for that person, right? If you've asked them to go on it, because really what these questions do, I think, is they help you go on the inside and find like the inner you, even if the intimacy is intimacy with you with another person, but it's intimate with the own you on the inside of you, if
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense. I probably said that awfully, but when someone asks you, well, what are you avoiding right now? Well, I have to go on the inside and really tune into it. I don't know. I'm eating chocolate. That's what, because I don't want to think about this. Why are you asking me? But these are wonderful. They're a list of 15 questions. We're talking to Jonathan Robinson, and we're talking about his book Find Happiness Now. But I would highly recommend going through these questions because we don't, like you said, we don't take the time
Hmm.
to ask people, and when you do, you learn something about them that you didn't know, right?
Yeah, yeah. One of the tips I have 50 tips in the Find Happiness Now book. One of my favorites is to simply schedule quality time with people you care about.
Mm-hmm.
Where I make appointments, like, Friday 2 to 3, let's have that Skype call or let's do this together. I actually put in my calendar because I notice with things being so busy, people only do what's in their calendar.
Mm-hmm.
What they schedule are things like work and doctor's appointments, so that
Right.
gets done.
Yeah.
But if you want to have quality, I schedule playtime with my dog. That's how sick I am.
I love that. That's fantastic. Well, because
So,
you have to, it's like that whole Covey thing where you actually have to put the most important things first. If you don't
yeah,
schedule those things and those really important things, because the playtime for your dog is for your dog, but it's also for your heart, right? Because as I read in here, it makes you happy.
yeah,
Right? It makes you happy. So it's like you're a reward. Um, it's a reward for whatever else stuff that you have to do. Write stuff, which I don't know if I'm sure you love writing because you're a writer.
yeah.
Um, I don't. Um, so I
Then
need to
don't do
get,
it.
what?
Then don't do it.
No, I'm trying to actually, what I'm thinking of is starting to write more because that's what you need if you have anything related to the internet. I have to write more.
Yeah.
But actually, what I loved in your book is you have a whole bunch of tips about, how do you do things that you really don't feel personally motivated to do? Taxes is a perfect example, but, as the New Year's comes up, pretty soon in a few weeks, we're going to be facing New Year's resolutions, which
Yeah.
they're resolutions and that we resolve to do because usually we don't do them. Right? So this is the year that we claim to do them again. So I wanted to get some of your ideas on, and one that we had talked about earlier you said is something that you use in the corporate environment. Tell us a little bit. It's like a contract that you write with yourself.
Yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
do I need a notary public? How does it work?
Well, you write a simple contract. Let's say you want to exercise more.
Mm-hmm.
So you say, I'll go to the gym 3 times this week for an hour.
Right. So you actually have a specific goal with actual numbers associated with it.
Right. The key that makes this work is that you say, if I don't do this, there's a consequence. And the
Right.
consequence I came up with is one that seems to have a very powerful punch to it.
Uh-huh.
What I came up with was that if you don't do it, that you have to rip up $1.
I hate that. I thought you said $2 in here, but
Well,
there's
I
already been
limit it to
deflation.
$1 because a lot of people are cheap. They won't rip up $2. So, you are paying a price when you don't do what you say. This way, you pay it in a way that's really symbolic and really gets your attention.
Yeah.
So, I've done this with thousands of people. I can tell you that the average person who wants to lose 30 pounds will lose 30 pounds doing the contract method, and they'll only have ripped up $3 by the time they've lost the 30 pounds.
Wow. How did you look? Did you come up with this yourself, or because I know you're interviewing, hundreds of people.
I came up with this one myself because
Yeah.
I was a lazy slob. And, I wanted to meditate every day. I wanted to exercise. I wanted to do my taxes, etc. And, I didn't. So I said, okay, I'm just going to give myself a very small penalty if I don't.
Right.
And I'm also cheap besides being a lazy slob.
Yeah.
So I figured, well, I'll just rip up a dollar. And little did I know that the threat of ripping up a dollar was enough to change the course of my life.
Yeah,
And
that's
I've now done
fascinating.
this method with tens of thousands of people. I had a client who was snorting $17,000 of cocaine a month stop to avoid ripping up $1.
Wow. I
And
wonder
it
why
works
is
like
that? Because when I was thinking about this, I was contriving in my head all sorts of alternatives to doing ripping up a dollar because I'm also cheap. Because I thought, well, maybe I can put a dollar in a jar that I'll give away to a nonprofit. I'm like, well, no, that's not going to motivate you.
well, people do things to avoid pain. So if you give it to away, the effectiveness goes down 92%.
But oh, since you've already, you just
Yeah.
made that up. Did
No,
you
no, it
just
does.
make that up? So, okay, so somehow ripping that up creates a huge amount of pain, but I wonder why. I wonder why that works. I mean, I believe that it works because I was trying to come up with all sorts of different ways that I didn't have to do this.
Right. Well, and it's really not about ripping up money because most people who do this are successful like 98% of the time.
Wow.
So you could do this for a year and end up ripping up $1.
Yeah.
Yet going to the gym 50 weeks, that's
Yeah.
pretty good for a dollar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so, those types of really simple methods that take like a minute a week to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. If I don't, I'll rip up a dollar. Those are the types of things that can really make a huge difference in your life
Right.
without much effort.
And the things that you said, it's called the I can method.
Mhm.
So you sit in a quiet place. What important things could I do this week to create a life of even more inner or outer riches? That in itself, just answering that question, I think is a beautiful practice to do.
Yeah. And
And
writing it down,
yes,
that's part of the contract technique. So all this is giving your brain a clear message.
yes,
A lot of people get up in the morning, they don't want to go to work, but
right,
they do because they're under a contract. And
right,
if they don't, there's a penalty.
right,
So it
right,
works really well in the
right.
world. Just you
Yeah.
have to start using it to nurture your peace and your body and other things.
Yeah, yeah, but I think, and oddly, when you really think about the most common New Year's resolutions, they're all kind of punitive. They feel like punitive things, like I'm such a bad person because I don't exercise and I have weight issues and all these different things. Versus you're asking, what important things could I do this week to create a life of even more inner and outer riches? Like that's a slightly different questions
Hmm.
than what I think most of our New
What
Year's
do I have
resolutions
to
are.
do?
Yeah, what do I have to do to feel like I'm not like a slob, or generally a miscreant that shouldn't exist in the society? I mean, that's generally what our New Year's resolutions
That's a little
really
bit of a
do.
loaded question.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how can I actually be accepted and loved? You know, it's very different than what important things can I do this week to create a life of even more inner or outer riches. That's a completely different question, which I think is one of the most important things to do during New Year's is really asking like, what do I want to do to create this beautiful life that I want? Versus like, how could I be loved and accepted, right? How do you give, like the thing that you started off with, how do you create that on the inside,
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
you can, all right, so then 2, 3, or 4 ideas that you come up with, then you create a simple measurable task, like you're saying, I go to the gym once a week. And then you do a course of that for a single week, treat my customers better, whatever it may be. And then write down on a single piece of paper all the specific things you plan to do by the end of the week. Then state for each item you fail to complete by the end of the week, you will rip up $2. Wow. Okay. And then you put the contract in place where you can see it. And by the end of the week, you evaluate how you've done. I love it. And then you even have in here, you actually have a little signature
Yes, yes.
to make it really
It's
official.
a contract.
Exactly. Okay, fine. We're talking to Jonathan Robinson about finding happiness now. So you have a couple of other tips in this book too. And again, these are just not, we're talking about it in the holiday context, but as I said earlier, these are things that you can do throughout. Now there's another one about that works on this pleasure pain description too. It's called How to Be Motivated to Change Your Behavior. And it works on the idea that we all want to run towards pleasure and run away from pain. So tell us about that tip.
Well, that tip can best be described as something that came from the Christmas Carol, the Scrooge story.
Yeah.
They changed Scrooge's behavior overnight. They had the ghosts of the past say, look at how your behavior is causing pain in the past. And then they had to go to the present and say, look at how your behavior is causing pain for you and the people around you now. And then they say, if you continue this way, look at how this is going to cause pain in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he associated his behavior with lots of pain, so he decided to change. Well, that's what this does. If you write out how your behavior, let's say your behavior is you eat, in my case, I eat too many cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by eating too many cookies, it makes me have too much fat. It makes me tired. It makes me feel like a hypocrite because I talk about health a lot. So I just wrote this all down. And when you associate a lot of pain to your behavior, it tends to change.
Mm.
And then you can write about how if you did change this behavior, how good it would feel.
Okay, what would your cookie thing be?
Well, when I stopped eating cookies, I now can eat one cookie a week. I was eating like 6 a day.
Whoa, that is a lot of cookies.
That's
You
a lot
like
of cookies.
That's with me with bars of dark chocolate.
Right.
And the sad thing is dark chocolate has some antioxidants, so somehow in my mind I've justified it, but it's not
right.
800 calories as a bar of chocolate. Okay. So then you actually have the pleasure part. So what are the pleasure things about not eating cookies for you?
Well, my body feels great now. I haven't been sick for a few years.
Wow.
And I get to feel like I conquered something. And also I weighed exactly what I've always wanted to weigh. So all those things. And, my wife says my body looks good and I feel good. So all those things, I wrote it down so I could get it clear in my mind. And that helped me to not buy cookies and let them go.
Yeah. But you still eat how many cookies a week? Just one?
One, yeah.
One cookie a week?
Yeah.
Are you really mindfully conscious when you eat that cookie?
Oh, I celebrate it. I give it a good 15 minutes, I milk it.
I know one of the gals that I interviewed, we were talking about mindful eating, and I said, so do you ever, she's like, oh, I eat a hot fudge sundae. And that thing is, like, that whole experience can be dragged out for like an hour and a half because I'm taking a little spoon and I'm like, tasting it. She said, but often what happens, and she made an interesting point because she said, often what happens is we eat it and then we feel guilt and shame, and then our body chemistry is creating all sorts of, unhelpful things for digesting that food, and in fact creating all sorts of things that are making that cookie be even worse than it could be, right? Because it's causing stress. Stress causes us to have insulin levels, all this chemistry, which then actually results in us holding on to that cookie even longer, or hot fudge sundae, which I thought.
Speaking of stress, I have a great method I'll give your viewers that takes just a minute a day to do.
Yeah.
And it reduces stress hormone levels for 5.5 hours.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. They've done a lot of studies on this method. It really works great. And
so are you going to say thank you? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
People can do it right as I'm talking to them.
Okay, good.
So now, part of the method involves focusing on a person or animal you have great affection for.
Okay.
I focus on my dog because she's the cutest thing in the world. And my wife is pretty cute too, but I have no baggage with my dog whatsoever. So okay. Whoever you focus on.
But so focus on something that you love?
Yeah, a person or an animal or a young child.
Okay, all right, got it.
So you can just take a really deep breath, and when you exhale out your heart and just feel your heart area. And then think of this person or animal that you have great affection for, and remember special times that you had with them. Times that were filled with love and connection. And just allow yourself to feel how wonderful it is to have this being in your life, and how much joy they bring to your life. And you can even imagine telling them how much they mean to you and seeing how happy that makes them. And you can imagine holding them or hugging them in a way that helps you to feel even more connected. And just feel the gratitude for having this being be part of your life and feel that loving connection you have with them. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes if your eyes were closed and come back to the come back here, and just allow that feeling of warmth in your heart to be there.
Mm.
Now, this only took like 60 seconds, but it actually affects your blood chemistry level
Hmm.
of hormones, of stress hormones, and it's a very effective way to de-stress very quickly.
Hmm. Is that a heart math thing or is that something
Yeah,
different?
well, it's adapted from the heart math thing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But what's shocking to me is that it lasts. I'm going back into my head immediately. Out of my heart, hopefully not reversing the wonderful effects of that meditation. But what amazes me is that you said lasts for 5 hours.
Yes, yes. It actually reduces cortisol levels for 5 hours.
Just that moment of 30 seconds. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I'm like thinking in my head, I'm going, like I forgot that's what they were. Where are we on the interview? Okay, so does that reverse it, or is that 60 seconds of being in a heartfelt space lasts for that long period of time?
Well, it will, the more stressed out you are, the more noticeable it is.
Ah,
And
okay.
it will, even though you go back into your head, you have affected your cortisol levels for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still good. And when you practice, you get better at it and you
Mm.
go deeper into it.
Mm.
And a lot of times people will actually get tears in their eyes of
Yeah.
feeling they're connecting to a loved one.
Yeah.
That does make a huge difference in our lives to be able to get out of our head, even for a moment, and into our heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's it's hard to do, right? Because for whatever reason, during the holidays, we inundate ourselves with these to-dos, which are kind of a head-oriented process, logistics, check, 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 check kind of thing. And we forget that it is about, like, ultimately, why are you buying all these gifts as an expression of your love and gratitude? But we forget all of that in the midst
Might
of
as well use the direct way, get to the love and gratitude, and
exactly. Just get
spend
to
so
that
many
part
hours on these
first.
things.
Well, one of the things I've been doing is when I went to a cookie party. I know you
Cookie
probably
party?
will. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
exactly. What is this? You'll love this idea. This friend of mine hosts a cookie party,
Uh-huh.
and unbeknownst to me, I went to this cookie party. It's a virgin cookie experience. And so you bring a batch of cookies, and when I was baking the cookies, I was so stressed out. I'm like, I'm just gonna go Whole Foods and buy a dozen cookies. I just don't have enough time to do this. I was like, oh, don't be lame. Just make some cookies. I mean, come on, get in the holiday spirit. You're writing these articles about getting in the holiday spirit, and you can't make cookies. I'm like, I'm too tired. Like, okay, just make the cookies.
Well, rip
Think
up the
about all the
ball.
pain. And I kind of had my own plain pain pleasure conversation. But then I actually thought, okay, if you're gonna make these cookies, then really make these cookies. And so when I was cooking, I was literally saying love, 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 and I was just doing a love meditation. And every single time, I'm like cooking love into the food, which thank God I did, because afterwards I found out with this cookie party, what's supposed to be happening in this cookie party is you bring your cookie tray, and then you have to market your cookie tray. You have to explain why it's the best cookie available. So all these women bring these cookies. They were each given ten little stamps at the end, and then they put them in envelopes for the best cookie story that a
Yeah,
person could have. So thank God I bake. I'm like, oh, mine, I baked love into mine. Like, can you
yeah,
beat
yeah.
this? But it was one of those things that, anyways, I have no idea how I got here. I'm sorry, I've steered us into like a weird corner. Okay, so I want to go back to New Year's Eve resolutions or New Year's resolutions. So, the Proclamation of Will. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things that motivates people is they don't want to fail or be humiliated.
Mm-hmm.
So if you tell people that you're going to do something, like you're going to lose 20 pounds this year,
Yeah.
you tell everybody, then
Yes.
everybody is focused on helping you or telling you how's it going.
Yes.
So when you proclaim this is what I'm going to do and you tell everybody, then the fear of humiliation is actually working for you.
Yes. I can see
The
that.
fear of failure is actually a very good motivator, and the fact that you told everybody is going to help you to actually do that. So that's the proclamation tool, and I've used that for a lot of things. I wanted to take a year off and travel around the world. So
Yes.
I told everybody that's what I'm doing on February 12th. You
Oh,
know,
you even picked a date. That's perfect. Yeah, of course you would have to.
so if I was in America on February 13th, everybody I knew would think I was a loser.
Right. You didn't
So
keep up
I
your
managed to
word.
get the money together and do it, and it was the best year of my life. So it can be a very useful method. As I said, there's a lot of technologies that most people don't know about that can really help them be happier and get more done and even make more money. You know, happy people make almost $1 million more than unhappy people over the course of their life, and they live
Well, where
nine
are you
years
getting
longer.
where are you getting that number? I just swear you're just throwing these numbers. Actually, 95% of the people say that that number is true.
Yeah.
Okay, where are you getting that? Where are you getting that? They make a million. Where are you getting that stat? That happy
Well,
people make a
they've
million
done some
dollars.
studies because in the last 15 years, positive psychology has done a lot of studies on happiness.
Uh-huh.
And we're surprised to find that happy people make a lot more money. You'd rather do business with a happy person. You know,
It's true.
you don't interview people. I wrote this book on depression and suicide and how to be depressed. You know, you don't want
Right.
to interview that person.
Right.
But so happy people make more connections. They raise happier kids. They live 9 years longer than people who are depressed.
Wow.
So
Fascinating.
there's a lot of benefits. But in this culture that we live in, we're taught that the way to do that is through a pill or through money, and those methods don't work that great.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. We are talking to Jonathan Robinson. We're talking about finding happiness now. I just want to ask you a little bit about these tips. And I have there's this book has 50 different shortcuts for bringing more love, balance, and joy into your life. And we're talking about this for the holidays, but this could be used. This is about every day. Every day is a holiday. So tell me a little bit about how you. I know that you said in the book that the way that you constructed this book is through a journal where you wrote a bunch of journal entries and then you summarized it in this book. Is that typically how you write your books? What's your process?
Actually, I came up with a great method many years ago where I decided I would write for 5 minutes a day, no matter what. You know, like
Oh,
brushing my teeth. And half the time it's garbage. But every now and then, if you have a lot of at bats, you strike gold
yeah.
and hit a home run. So sometimes I'd sit down, I'd be inspired, and I'd write for several hours, and that's still my process. But I do a lot of professional speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Corporation, I just spoke to Google, and what I find is that people tell you what methods really work for them.
Hmm.
So I just use the methods that people said, wow, that just changed my life. You know, you should tell everybody about that method. And
Wow.
so I kind of took a journal. I got to include this method because that really works.
So then you do research on that particular method. You find out that 95% of the people are 500,000 times happier and make $1 million more using this method.
Sometimes my research was just a few people telling me that really worked.
But if someone actually, because so people when people after your conference are like, oh, I have a tip. So that's kind of because people want to share with you whatever the thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. And how many books have you written? This is my
Um,
first exposure. I feel sad. I should have
I've written
seen more.
10,
We've written
10
10
books.
books.
Yeah. I have a website called findinghappiness.com, which all the books are there. And also, if people go to Finding Happiness, they can get 45 minutes of free tips by signing their email and gain a bunch of free happiness articles as well.
Right.
So I encourage people to learn about because there's some great methods now that most people don't know that take like 60 seconds a day to do
Yes.
that can, I mean, I was a suicidally depressed teenager, so I am a living example that these things can really work.
And do you feel, well, of course you're going to answer yes to this, but how has the nature of your happiness changed over time? Because if ask you, are you happy? You cannot answer no, I guess. But how has the nature of your happiness changed over time as a result of all this work?
Well, I used to look at happiness as something that happened if I could control more people and situations in my life to
Mm-hmm.
be the way I want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why money's so important to a lot of people. But over time, I've learned that I'm in charge of my own happiness level. It's really a matter of methods that I do and beliefs that I have and how I treat myself and others.
Mm.
So it's always within my control. It's not something that happens out of good luck or winning the lottery.
Right, right. It's just something that you recognize is within yourself all the time. Interesting. Thank you so much for your time and all these tips. As I said before, they're lifelong tips. We have Jonathan Robinson talking about his book, Finding Happiness Now. Thank you so much for your time.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.